Okay, second part of this video, fear of success. If you watched our first one, I'm saying hour, like it's more than one person. If you watched my first one, then you're back for the second part. We know that we talked about fear of success, what it is, effects of it, and in part of my personal story. And now I want to go into just loneliness and success. And in seasons of loneliness, right? Which is something I still feel like I struggle with. Like, no, I'm not gonna kid. Like, I definitely still struggle with this. So I feel like I get better every single time, like every single season that, or every single period I have to go through that. But I'm definitely feeling like that's something I've struggled with and I am struggling with, right? So loneliness and success, right? So for me, something I discovered in therapy, and love my therapist, is that I had this fear of being successful and lonely. Again, whether that had been from the things that I have been seeing on social media of like, this huge push of like
women who are excelling in their career are never going to get married, they're never going to have kids, they're never going to do whatever, blah, 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 right?
And for me, it was less about the narrative of what I would look like as a successful person or a woman who was diving into their career, and more about the family I felt like I was leaving behind, right? So there's two sides to this. There is the side where you are spending a lot of time with family, you are getting to know family, you are seeing everybody grow and thrive and excel, etc. And then there's the other side where you are spending time understanding and learning yourself and diving deep into the things that you really love and really enjoy, and building the legacy and the foundation to be able to leave a lasting legacy that you can pass on, right? Now, that's extremely lonely. That's a really lonely thing to do because it requires a certain amount of time that you have to spend in building those things up, that you miss things like holidays, you miss things like birthdays, you miss things like again, celebrations, or like if you have nieces and nephews, or that are growing up, or siblings that are growing up, or you're not around. If you're someone like me who moved out of state and a lot of your family are in another state, you're not around for those experiences where everybody's getting together every weekend or everybody's getting together every week. And there are pros and cons to that, which I might do another video on that, or like if y'all have specific questions just about that in general. There are pros and cons to that, because on one end you feel extremely fulfilled because you're working on your brand, you're working on your business, and you're seeing again the fruits of your labor in that, and you're able to then be able to provide funding to help family, or provide resources, really like building those connections, so that if you do, in my case, I have a niece and nephew, nieces and nephews who are now into art, I'm able to say, hey, I know these programs, I have these connections, like I've done the work to get through these things, and now I can kind of coach you through this or talk to you about it. And you now know someone in this field who can say, this is the good parts of it, this is the bad parts of it, right? But if I had never gone and done those things, then I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't have those experiences to be able to talk about. I wouldn't be able to help people in the way that I want to, and the way that I'm able to now. So that is a lot of pressure, I feel like, we put on ourselves as people who are first generation anything, or the first people to blaze a trail. I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. I want to say we, but the ones that are community oriented, like myself, I put a lot of pressure on myself to help the community and give back. The same people who were giving to me when I was learning in my career early on, and still learning in my career, I want to be able to do the same things, like have a mentee, be a mentor, go back and talk to students, go back and teach classes, spend time with students and help them learn the basics of art. Spend time now trying to be more consistent with YouTube so that I can reach other people that this might help, and kind of alleviate some of those issues that I had starting early on, especially when it comes to figuring out the mental part of it, right? The mental game, because 80% of it is the mental game. 80% of it is really believing in your thought process and how that translates in your actions. And I don't think that is conducive to just art, but I think it is a large chunk of any time you are trying to achieve something and having a fear of what it looks like, of what that greatness looks like within you. Because I'm a strong believer that the ones who have it, like, they know it, like it's a feeling, and I feel like that usually comes in the form of like feeling like, oh, I'm different than everyone else, and not like in a boastful way, but more in a I want to do something different kind of way. Loneliness and success, that fear comes in many different forms. So again, being lonely, having a fear of loneliness can come in having multiple friends, like having 20 plus friends, ones that you really don't know, but you want to keep a group, you want to keep a circle because you don't want to be alone with your own thoughts, right? You have a group of yes women, yes men, people who just always co-sign everything that you do and don't tell you when something is wrong, or when, or it can go the reverse way, where something is really good and really wholesome, or morally good, or something that could really better you as a person or better your career. And you have those peoples and the naysayers that you're keeping around who are saying stuff like, oh, you changed. Oh, what, you want to go do that? Like, they're giving you like this negative energy surrounding your career, something that really makes you happy, or something that really pushes you forward, and what is something you feel like you can thrive in. So you start believing those things. You start feeling like, someone who says, oh, you don't have no time for that, you're too old for this, you're not smart enough, you're not this, that goes into keeping people around. Because when you are not sure of yourself, you look for the other validation of other people. And again, while I stress that validation can look like a validation from a parent, that validation can look like a validation from a loved one, or like, a relationship. And then when you don't get it, you use it as an excuse not to do that thing. And you're like, well, I probably wouldn't have been good at it anyway. But that's always going to bug you. Kind of like what I was saying with that, like, mask and your real self, your true self, that is just like fighting on the inside. That will continue to fight. Oh my God, that's funny. J. Cole said it best. If you give up a dream, it'll haunt you. Like, I can't remember the song, and I can't remember like how he said it or the flow of what he said it, but he was so correct. Like, he was really right. Like, anytime I decide to slack off or not take an opportunity out of fear, it usually results in me straight up resenting it, feeling bad, feeling like I could have done more. I never forget those moments. Like, they live on in my head. The ones from like early on in my career, the ones from more recently, especially if it's something I feel like could have propelled me in a, or put me in a better position. So I don't want that to happen to anybody like watching this video. So that's why I'm telling you, be aware of those things. Like, if my friend actually said it best as well, like, if you had those butterfly weird feelings, sometimes we take that as like, oh, it's a gut feeling, like I shouldn't do it. But if it's causing some anxiety, then maybe it's really good for you. Don't quote me on that, because I don't want y'all jumping into anything that's just causing anxiety and then being like, Chanel told me if it causes anxiety, I should do it. No, not just anything. I'm saying like an anxiety of like, I'm afraid to do this, and you believe fully in your heart that it could be really good for the direction that you're going in. And sometimes that fear comes from, again, being the outlier, being the first one to do it, and hearing all the naysayers say, why would you want to do that? That's, that's different. We've never known anybody who's done anything like that. So that could be extremely scary. Yes. But what's even scarier is dying with regrets, or dying with, not even dying, but like, let's just say thinking over and over like, wow, I just gave this up, or I didn't try because it was too hard. So that's loneliness and success, right? We often keep people around because we feel like, oh, I don't want to be lonely, or I don't want to feel like, I'm not, I want to have the validation of like someone telling me I'm doing right, or someone telling me like, it's not good, I shouldn't do it, right? And again, personal story, I've done that when it comes to romantic relationships. And over time, I start to realize, okay, the person I'm dating is telling me, is in competition with me, essentially. And I haven't always been the best in noticing that until other friends start to tell me those things where they're just like, they said what to you? I'm sorry, what? So, season of loneliness. I feel like everybody needs to be in a season of loneliness. If you are chasing a passion, chasing a purpose, thinking about how far your vision is, thinking about how far you can go or take that vision, I feel like there's always room for a season of loneliness. And that could be everyday meditation, like spending time with yourself, thinking about the ideas that come to mind, or writing down all the visions that you may have, all the ways in which you want to manifest some of the things that you're trying to achieve. So if it is, I don't know, first thing I'm thinking about, if you want to start teaching classes, if you want to start doing YouTube, like maybe writing down some of the ideas that, and this is something I need to follow too, but maybe writing down some of the ideas that you want to talk about, or some of the topics you want to talk about. Your season of loneliness can also look like that season where friends start to fall off, not chasing those friends. Something I used to ask myself is like, dang, like why, I had someone, the first time I stopped, I don't drink, right? So when I stopped drinking, I had a lot of friends who just didn't want to be friends with me anymore, right? And I'm like, I'm a fun person, like drinking doesn't, like make me become more of who I am. Like it in a way, it alters me, right? But these people started dropping off like flies, and they made every single excuse as to why they didn't want to be around. And at the time, I was getting my life together. Like, I was working out a lot more. I was getting my finances in order, propelling in my career, and also like changing a lot of those old habits. And some people would outright say it. They would be like, you changed. And it's like, yes, I have. That's great. Awesome. Get to know the new me, right? And some people would ask, like, if I was going to start drinking, or like if I was going to be drinking at whatever they were trying to invite me to. And if I said no, they just didn't invite me. And so, of course, those are not friends. Anyone who is trying to coerce you into doing something that's not your character, even if it's a family member, loved one, if you're getting guilt tripped by, relationships or friendships into doing something that is not conducive with the character that you're trying to build for yourself in this new phase of your career. I talked about this a lot in the last manifestation video. This creating the person, or the envisioning the person that you want to see walk across that threshold, or envisioning and becoming the person that you believe is supposed to achieve the successes that you have written out for yourself or deem yourself worthy of. And that does cause a season of loneliness, because everybody's not meant to go with you. And that sound, when people, a lot of people say it on social media, like, oh, everybody's not meant to go with you. And we see that so much, and we just think, wow, I needed to drop everybody. But honestly, it will happen naturally. And part of it comes from people will leave out of your life because of their own insecurity. People will cut themselves off. And I guarantee you, every person who has cut themselves off has spun the block in some way, shape, or form in my life. And it's not that I've asked them to come back. It's just like they've tried to, and I'm open to like having a conversation and everything, but am I open to placing you in the same position that you were in my life before? No, I'm not. That's okay. Unless there's like significant growth that I've seen in your character. Awesome. But are you here to distract me? Like, some people are here to distract you from that purpose. Some people are here to distract you from whatever career that you're trying to build for yourself. And a lot of times we will allow ourselves to get distracted because, again, why? Fear of success. We will allow ourselves to get distracted. We will allow ourselves to be out in the club, drinking out, you out at every single event, you're out at every single dinner. Nothing wrong with going to dinner and going to events. Nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is, are you doing that more than putting like time and investing into yourself and your purpose and your career and Again, this is not criticizing you or trying to create like a you doing this. Like, that is me also sharing, like, I've also done it. That is me also sharing, like, I am still young, I'm still learning, and I probably will do it again. Who's to say? Like, I'm in different seasons in time and in my life. So and this is a season of straight focus. All right. So that is that idea of loneliness and success, your season of a loneliness, and starting to get into awareness of this. All right. Like, are you aware of the fact that you are doing these things? Like, and sometimes that takes a second to kind of reevaluate who you are having in your life. Are they pouring life into you? Are they taking life away from you? And no, by no means am I saying have an avoidant personality. That's been in the media a lot, but have an avoidant personality and be like, you're not conducive to my joy and happiness, because as another friend of mine would say, joy and happiness, chasing joy and happiness is the fastest way to failing, really. Like, joy and happiness comes, but it's like they're fleeting emotions. So real community, real relationships are not always going to be joyous. They're not always going to be happy. They're not always going to how you say be harmonious, right? But the ones that can help you reflect on, okay, are you truly doing the work that you say you're trying to do? Like, the ones that can hold you accountable, that's great. That's awesome. That doesn't have to look like, again, that goes back to why people are afraid of being lonely, because they're used to people always giving them that validation of like, you're doing nothing wrong, nothing you do wrong, you're never wrong. Like, that's great, that's awesome. But like, someone who's there to hold you accountable or there to help you in the right ways is going to ask you, like, if you're saying, oh, I'm trying to start this business, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do this, and they hear you saying that, they're going to ask you, like, how much time are you spending doing that? Or like, what can I help with? What have you done already? So that's just something to consider before you just go chop and block everybody you have in your life. And are you afraid of failure, or are you afraid of success? Based off of the definition in our first video of being afraid of failure, you're jumping, you're cutting, you're doing anything within your power to achieve whatever it is that you're doing. And that means burning bridges, that means stealing opportunities, that means pretty much everything under the sun. Like, that is not always great, to be honest, and you lose yourself in a lot of that. Or are you afraid of success? Are you afraid of the achievements that come with that, and asking yourself why that is? Were you that kid that was only given love when they did something great? Or maybe you were that kid or adult, hey, that was told, you think you better than us, like, you think you all that, and now you're like, oh, it's kind of like the kid that those of us that have, of course, those of us that, been in school, public school, and you are getting straight A's, and then all the kids in the class like laugh at you. They're like, you think you like, you smart, that's a nerd. And you start like you start downplaying yourself, like, oh, I'm not that smart, because you don't want to get laughed at, you don't want to get bullied. It's the same way, only the bullies get older and they still bullying. Like, they're in the corporate office, they're in the museums, they're in the galleries, there's a curator, there's they're your landlord, they're all of that. They just got older. They're the same bullies. They're the same snot-nosed bullies from middle school, elementary school, high school, college, right? They're still the same. So how can you radiate success? How can you stop yourself from pushing or sabotaging your success for yourself? And those are questions that I want you to ask you. Are you afraid of failure, or are you afraid of success? So hopefully you made it to the end here. I see I've been talking for 20 minutes now. So this is, again, part 2, and I will probably make a third one. We'll see. I feel like if there's stuff that you feel like isn't covered, like, definitely comment below, and tell me if that's resonated with you. Please and thank you. and any other videos that you feel like you want me to talk about. I'm coming up with ideas now, but I would love to hear from you all just on like things you may want to hear about, whether it be like, you know, motivational stuff or more so specific to my journey as an artist or specific to the journey as an artist or of an artist. And of course, we'll get back into more tutorials when I have a lot more sitting time. But for now, check it out and check out my shirt again because I'm in love with it. And the website for my children's book, Curious Colors, is down in the link below. This is actually an interactive introduction to shapes and colors. I succeeded in merging my passion for education and art. So I'm really excited about this. This is really my baby. And then of course, your girl is on the back. But it's a learn as you grow book. It teaches color theory, teaches shapes and colors, and it also has coloring pages in the back. So I'm gonna just kind of flip through that just a little bit. So there's some areas here where of course like kids can write, or if you're an adult, writing in there. So there you go. All right, so that will be below. And until next time, thank you.